Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Today I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
I don't even have
I
you
love
muted
eating, sir.
tonight.
Hey, that's a good thing, right?
Depends who you ask.
Well, it is what it is. So, how are you doing this final level evening, sir?
I am doing well, I suppose. Just,
You suppose.
I suppose, yeah. So, some may or may not know I've recently went back to a Muggle job, and am doing Nerdarchy part time and working full time. I work today, so it's been a long day.
Well, it's sometimes how it has to go, my friend.
It
Uh,
is, it is. But we get to talk about D&D and dinosaurs and fun things tonight. So
yeah,
I can't believe we haven't done this topic.
it is kind of shocking, considering, D&D and dinosaurs go well together. Uh, you
Not
know,
everyone would agree with you, man. I feel like people either really like dinosaurs in their D&D or they really hate it.
Uh, I like dinosaurs. I've liked dinosaurs, for as long as I can remember. I know that when I was in the fourth grade, many, many, many years ago, there was a book that,
Speaking of dinosaurs.
speaking of dinosaurs, there you go.
Yeah.
There was a book called the Illustrated Dinosaur Dictionary, and I tried to find it.
Uh-huh.
It would really display well here, um, but you know, with my house in shambles right now, wasn't able to locate it.
Did you have a herd of dinosaurs run through your house?
We've talked about this before, and I'm currently going through a major reconstruction on the house. So like every room is a major disaster area. Where I think it would be located is currently blocked off by, new bedroom furniture that, can't go to its new home yet. So I sadly was not able to pull it out. But because that was from what, more than 30 years ago, 40 years, in between 30 and 40 years ago. It was one of those things of like, well, this certainly would be out of date with so much information that I'm like, well, scientists have learned so much since that time frame. Doesn't matter. It's all junk.
Yeah, I feel like it might be outdated by now, but that's okay.
So,
What do you think about dinosaurs in D&D?
like I said, I dig it. We did some some pregame work, and we're looking at D&D Beyond, and there is actual dinosaur tag that you can apply, and it pulls up 19 different creatures, three of which are undead, one of which is a monstrosity, and the rest are, as you would expect, beasts. So for me, I would certainly like pull out my old book and be like, all right, what can I make that that's not that could be useful here. And I would love to have the we've always joked with the small dinosaurs that are like almost little bigger than chicken sizes. Be like, all right, it'd be a much bigger situation, but can we have a swarm of those things and just attack like locusts and just devour everything?
So essentially, you just want to recreate. You just want to technically just recreate this that scene from Jurassic Park with the little girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that can work.
I mean, I feel like that's easy enough. I mean, we can definitely make that happen.
But of the stuff that's here, a lot of the monsters fall into the legacy category, because they're from the original Player's Handbook or Volo's Guide to Monsters. So
Yeah, the legacy ones are all those guys. The monster. That's the breakdown.
okay, so like I don't know whether we're gonna be getting new versions of them at some point in time, but you know, I guess they don't quite fit the same criteria. I don't know.
Well, I guess not because the reason why they're legacy is just because they're monsters from that book, and I just feel like everything from that, and I think Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, they all became legacies, and some of them got redos, and but many didn't. Like your dinosaurs, no love for the dinos. But that being said, you can still use them. The only problem is if you I think if you get D&D Beyond now, I don't think you get access to the legacy stuff if you didn't have it before.
Right.
And like those books, I don't think you can get those books anymore. I mean, you can probably get them, but they're not going to be made. I don't think they're going to be printing them anymore.
That's from my count. That's seven of our 19 dinosaurs
Just gone.
close. So like that's a sizable situation. Almost it's more than a third of what's there. So that would strip out a lot. And if you take out um, the undead and the monstrosity, that only leaves you with like eight.
Yeah.
So now the what do we call it here? The Quetzalcoatlus. I have a modified version of that I made for the website. I don't know if it's been posted yet or whatnot, but as like a secondary, or not a secondary, but another mount option that would fit well with our fantastical mounts PDF that we made. I think I call it like a mountain glider as its like, kind of nickname. But it's stylized off of Quetzalcoatlus from a visual size ratio. Um, and it's definitely a lot of fun, but it didn't quite fit everything that the Quetzalcoatlus had. So I was like, all right, I need to make my own.
So let's see. M. Lynch, what are your thoughts about a Dino Riders old cartoon type campaign? There's actually an RPG that kind of does that, right? Perdition, I believe is called, and it's a Monte Cook Games. It's based off the Cipher system, and the part of the concept is like I believe they do the meshing of tech, time travel, and dinosaurs, and you get every character has a dinosaur companion. Matter of fact, we did I want to say play test, not a play test, demo. We did a demo at Gen Con one year, or Origins. I think it was Gen Con. It was me, yeah, it was me, David, and Doug, and like somebody else was playing as well. And they had some pre-gens, and my son was like, I don't care which one I play, I just want to be the one with the Ankylosaurus. But the way the game worked is like you get to be that character, and you have the dinosaur, and you can kind of try and get your dinosaur to do stuff, but you might have to make checks or whatever. But another player actually plays your dinosaur, and you play somebody else's. So like my son was crestfallen when the GM was like, okay, now hand your dinosaur to the player to the left. And he was just like, but my Ankylosaurus.
Yeah, I remember that story, and I would be in the same
Yeah.
that your son was, because I too love the Ankylosaurus. It has been my favorite, for many many a year. I'm a huge fan of the old '80s cartoon of the Dino Riders. I actually, somewhere in my stuff, I still have all of my old Dino Riders toys. I played the hell out of those things, and I collected the hell out of those things too. So there's no way I was willing to part with them.
So all right, so there's some other questions in here, but I guess so. I don't think like D&D is actually a great system for if to do the Dino Riders. Not if
Oh,
you
right,
wanted to do it like the Dino Riders, but if
sure.
you just want to have characters that ride dinosaurs, then it absolutely works. Matter of fact, Ebron had the dinosaur riding halflings as just part of the their campaign setting, so that that totally works. Um, there was someone. So that was Nexus asking about steeds. Totally works. It's been done. And Nexus also. What do you guys think of a pet tiny ooze?
I think a pet tiny ooze could be hysterical. We had some family get-togethers this weekend, and my son and nephew were talking about Minecraft stuff, and there's it's Minecraft, so everything is, of course, cube shaped, and they do have an ooze, that's there. And when you attack it, it splits off into smaller oozes. So like you essentially have this gelatinous cube thing that splits into smaller versions. And I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool. When you kind of compare the size to the smaller oozes and the people, I'm like, all right, you could certainly do something with that. And considering how much of a staple oozes are,
Yeah.
surprised that it doesn't already exist, especially with, the Demon Lord Magoobliet and all the things that have been done with them.
I would say go to the Nerdarchy YouTube channel and just use the channel search and search booze ooze. Because we did talk about little oozes as well in there. Matter of fact, we came up with the idea of a tavern run by dwarves where you play with oozes instead of drinking, and that's how you get intoxicated.
Yeah, the booze ooze is a lovely thing.
But going back to dinosaurs have been in D&D for quite some time. I think I don't know if they showed up before the Isle of Dread, but there was a pre-written adventure, Isle of Dread, in '81, and yeah, that was prehistoric stuff. You had and I remember dinosaurs in Forgotten Realms really early. I remember having a random encounter with a pair of Stegosauruses, and actually, so that was AD&D, and things were a bit different. And I believe I was riding a horse, and my character fought with two long swords and charged it, and then like went to slash down the sides of the Stegosaurus. And my DM made me make some kind of checks. And, like I did a bunch of damage to the Stegosaurus, but also like broke my wrists. Good times, good times.
So I don't recall in second edition really ever having interacted with dinosaurs.
Well, you're lucky because your wrists are thanking you for it.
So like I remember when the 3.5 things came out and the big discussion of like, do dinosaurs, belong in a regular campaign setting? Are they supposed to be this prehistoric thing, or, have we somehow survived, you know, beasts of that size being, or like should we get a full on Fred Flintstones kind of game going where dinosaurs are there and are in part of the culture. So I think that could be an amusing concept to play along with.
Well, I mean, look at like they've been in D&D for a while. I gave they're in Chult and Forgotten Realms are pretty prevalent there.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they even have like the dinosaur racing. And then I'm trying to think. My brain just kind of fell apart on me there. Sorry, folks. Uh, but so in our own games, though, they've come up a couple times. Um, but I would say like the most prominent place where I've seen kind of like not directly dinosaurs, but dinosaurs flavoring is the Finderstone trilogy.
Yes.
When you get Dragon Bait, and later in the trilogy they introduce the Saurials, which are
Mm-hmm.
all basically like magical humanoid dinosaurs. I know you were a big fan of the Saurials.
They are probably from the earlier editions one of my favorite races, just because I'm that big of a dinosaur fan. Uh, I know in the very early days of Nerdarchy when it was like, oh, what kind of content can I create? There's no guarantee of how balanced they are with the current mindset of
Yeah.
but there are 2 to 3 articles of doing the Sariel's fifth edition style on the website. I did the 4 that I think are there, and I made up some of my own that were just based off of other dinosaurs that I felt should have been repped but weren't. Um, so there's definitely a lot of things that you could do, um, for easy convenience. So when we do the companion newsletter, I'll try to make sure I grab those links and pop them in. See what other dinosaur content you might be able to find, on the website. But yeah, I felt Sarials are badass. So why not?
So next is Dino in 5e Monster Manual. I thought it is. There's like five of them in there. I think I might be give or take one or two. But there is a few of them in there, and then Volo's got the monsters. Added a bunch more, and then maybe I don't know if Tomb of Annihilation gave us some more as well for Chode or not.
So you've got some Tome of Annihilation has the zombie T-Rex. It has the King of Feathers, which is the monstrosity. Dinosaur Skeleton is in Journey to the Radiant Citadel. Clawfoot is in Eberron, Rising from the Last War, and the Ankylosaurus zombie is also in the Tome of Annihilation.
Do people remember the D&D mass combat system? It was like I think it was a box set for AD&D, and it had one of the most badass cover art for the box set, and it was just like it's like a horde of barbarians with like their chieftain or whatever is riding a triceratops. Well, it's not actually a triceratops, but because it's got the horns, but then it's got the frills as well.
Mm.
I don't know if it's an actual dinosaur, if it's
Does it have the one horn in the front and then the things, or does it have three horns and then the horns out the back?
it's got. Let's see, the image I'm looking at is so tiny. I don't know.
I believe that could be a Styracosaurus.
That's slightly better. Oh, it's got the three horns, but then it's got the frill behind it.
Yeah, I don't know which version that is then.
Yeah. Again, also, it may not actually be an actual. It may not actually be an actual dinosaur because of um. It
Yeah,
could just
I mean,
be. It just could be an artist, rendition or whatever.
sure. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
But again, that came out a long time ago, and it was featured right on the cover. So I would say like it's kind of baked into a lot of the DNA. Trying to see when that came out, but I remember my first DM having that 89 is when it came out, or 85 even earlier. So it didn't take long for the creators and the initial designers to start pouring in Dino DNA into the game.
I mean, that's part and parcel with how it works. Uh, if somebody likes a concept, it can easily get moved forward and be like, all right, how can we use
Ted,
this?
you're a resident dinosaur expert. I got a question for you that only you can answer.
I'll do my best. What's up?
All right, so Lynch wants to know, as a DM, if one of your players get their hands on a dino egg, how long would you make them wait for it to hatch? What conditions would they need to meet before it hatches?
Well, I mean, if it's an egg and you got to hatch it, it's going to be one of those things where like you got to do what needs to be done. It's got to be you know kept
Clearly, one of the players must sit on it at all times.
100%. It's got to get sat on. Like my kid found in our first kids game, they found an egg, and like they had it through the whole campaign. It was one of those things like, oh, they were making checks and they were doing this, and like by the time that it got to the end, like, oh, the end of the campaign, the thing hatched. And like they weren't expecting when I asked my son, I'm like, all right, so what's inside? He's like, well,
Uh,
I'm playing a dragon-born dragon sorcerer, so it's got to be something draconic. I'm like, all right. How about it be a Dranther? Maybe even a War Dranther. And he was like so over the moon about him, hatching a Dranther. And it's like, well, now you're gonna have to take care of it and raise it before you can even like turn it into a mount. But you know, he was ecstatic about just getting this draconic mount. But for the if you're going to give something an egg, have an idea of like what you feel is going to be an acceptable. In my game, this was like some kind of quest reward that he would received, wasn't just like an egg he found.
Yeah.
So like he was willing to take the time and invest into it for it to actually become something. Whereas like if you just find an egg out in nature, well, then you got to find out like, all right, is it still viable? Where is its caretaker, whatever it's, mother, father, parent, what have you. Um, and then are they following, proper protocols, making nature checks, possibly animal handling checks, something to make sure that it's kept safe, it's kept warm, and kept in the right conditions. I know that with snakes, if the temperature gets off by like a couple of degrees, either too hot or too cold, it becomes a dud. The snake will not come to fruition, will not hatch. So like you could extrapolate that to other reptile things. All right, it's you guys are camping down for the night. It's getting really cold. What are you doing with that egg? Is somebody going to cast some kind of heat spell? Are you going to do a fire and keep the egg close but not too close? Like, there's a lot of things that you could do. And you could literally, if they decide, all right, we just want to get this egg to hatch, that could be a protracted skill challenge. You do it over 3 rounds, getting successes with, nature, animal handling, and survival, possibly mixing something else in if somebody's got some good ideas. And then, eventually, whatever time frame works for you or for the animal that is supposed to come out of it, what is the typical, gestation or hatch period for it? That's what I would look at. That's what I would go. It's gonna be a freaking dinosaur egg. I'm gonna say, let's give it, 2 months. That might be extreme, but that's the mount number that jumps into my head. Sit on the egg for 2 months. That's ridiculous, sure, but why not?
There are strong opinions being voiced about what creatures use what other creatures for mounts in the chat. John David, I hate when Dragonborn rides a dragon or werewolf rides a wolf.
Well, I mean, it's got to be a small werewolf to be riding a regular wolf. Uh,
uh,
Werewolves can get to large. Uh,
Cat people on cat mounts.
I mean, Megalodon versus a water dragon Megalodon. I don't know. Um,
So in my Court of Worms game, dinosaurs were featured very heavily.
mhm.
They're just part of the local fauna in Court of Worms in the Vale there. Matter of fact, like they would instead of using horses or other beasts of burdens, they would use pygmy dinosaurs
Mhm.
essentially. So it had like smaller versions. Matter of fact, I don't think Carlos is yet to forgive me for the death of several pygmy brontosauruses or pygmy thunder beasts, as they were called in the game.
Thunder beasts.
They got brutally murdered after he named them all, or maybe they already had names, but he took a liking to like one or two of them.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what you have to do, unfortunately.
Make them love them and then murder them. Yes, indeed. And it's funny. I don't think I ever statted them because I went back and looked. And I was like, I just have them linked to actual brontosauruses, and that's not what they were at all.
Right. Well, I mean, whatever it was, there was enough damage that was like, yeah, these things could not have survived.
Yeah, yeah. It was they're more comparable to maybe like oxen or something of that nature. I'm pretty sure
Mhm.
like Carlos took the time to bury the ones that died.
I think so. Yeah, it was kind of a difficult time, and thankfully, I was playing a character who didn't really express any kind of emotion, so it was like, eh. it sucks that we don't have these creatures to serve us anymore.
Yeah. If you're on an island on the back of a sea turtle, it is technically a mount. That'd be one big sea turtle. So like maybe like the AD&D version of the Zaratan. Actually, I think they did do a 5e version where it's basically a turtle the size of an island.
Yep. I very much remember the Zaratan. They're a fun thing to be able to play with.
So authors sad missed my chance to play a druid with a pack of T Rexes when my group moved from Pathfinder 1 to 5e. That's might be a little obnoxious. Although I don't know if we talked about it after we went live, but beforehand, I know we were definitely talking about dinosaur swarms. So we did talk about it in the very beginning because
Yeah, the
you wanted to
uh,
recreate the scene from Jurassic Park.
yeah, and we were joking about like I need a swarm of T Rexes.
Well, you could
Or
do like those tiny velociraptors. That works.
Mhm. Um, but I think a pack of T Rexes, like unless you're talking about an epic level campaign, that's just not necessary. Like there's nothing that you should be infecting or infesting a world with that many T Rexes with a party.
Yeah, you should just use a swarm of Tarrasques at that point. I mean, there is James Intercosto's Planet of the Tarrasques, so
There is that indeed.
so you could always do that.
So we're coming up on the halfway point. Should we kind of mention this whole powered by up here in the corner?
Yeah, go for it.
So as you can kind of see if you look up above my head, this live chat is sponsored by our wonderful friends over at Easy Roller Dice. Whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 million set of dice, Easy Roller Dice for all your dice rolling needs. Down in the description below, you're going to find a link and a coupon code that you can use to get a sweet discount on your first order with them. So go check out all the awesome dice that they have over there, whether you're looking for metal dice, crystal dice, stone dice. They got lots of options and lots of awesome stuff.
Maybe even one day some bone dice
That would be pretty cool.
to so you can represent your dinosaurs in your game with them. Yeah, also, we're going to be doing some cool stuff in the future that you could do it with us too. Uh, in 2023, July 8th through 12th, I believe, we're going to be running some tables of Dungeons and Dragons in a castle in the UK. There's links to check that out as well. And also, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter for Zoo Mafia to download a free copy of the rules, you can still do that and check that out. Everyone that's played it seems to have had a lot of fun. At least this is what they told us. Maybe they're just being nice. I don't know. You can check it out for free and tell us.
Yeah, I was actually contacted by somebody that I met at D&D in a castle that I gifted a printed rule set to them. And within the next couple of weeks, I'm told that they're going to be running their first game of it. All of the players are like lined up and enthused about it. So I'm eagerly anticipating that setup to find out exactly what's there. Um, it's I'm going to be traveling to Ohio next month. I believe it's the third weekend, so I think the weekend of the 20th. So if you happen to be in and around, I believe it's Cincinnati, Ohio, and you want to go to Ice and Dice, you'll have a chance to come meet yours truly, as well as have that opportunity to play some Zoo Mafia along with me.
Sweet. Definitely going to want to check that out. We will get those more details listed in the near future. Take look to our social medias as well as the newsletter, and we'll put that information in there so you can go hang out with Ted if you happen to be in Ohio or you're going to Ice and Dice, or maybe you would like to go to Ice and Dice to hang out with Ted.
Indeed.
Can definitely do that. So I'm surprised you haven't used more dinosaurs in your game because you're the big dinosaur fan.
So it's one of those things that I feel like it's got to fit the proper setting. And because I really like them, there's a lot of times where I feel like if it doesn't make sense, I'm not just going to throw it in there because I like it. I'm a mini guy. I've got plenty of dinosaur minis. There are a lot of things that I've even gone ahead and picked up extra things that are outside the scope of like the typical WizKids minis, just because I feel like the sizing is right. It looks cool, and I'm like, screw it. I'm just gonna glue this sucker on a base and call it done. So like I probably have more than enough stuff to be like, all right, let's field a dinosaur game and just make it happen.
So Nexus seems to be concerned that AI is going to put him out of the dungeon master seat.
Well, I've played around with some AI stuff here and there, and so far I have not seen anything that makes me feel AI is at the point that it can handle that kind of stuff. Now, maybe I'm not playing with the right AI programs. I can't tell you. But the nuance to do exactly what a living, thinking, breathing D&D DM can do, we're not there yet.
I mean, I think
20
they're.
years.
I've seen some stuff where they're like, it is gaining in its competency in leaps and bounds.
Sure.
Because it learns way faster than we do.
Oh, of course.
I
And
await my robo overlords.
whether we get to what is that Will Smith movie?
I robot.
Yeah, whether we get to iRobot or whether we get to Terminator, we'll see what happens. But it is entirely possible because humans don't listen to other smarter humans.
So Morbid says dinos in my D&D games always make it feel like a Godzilla movie in the best way.
Well, Retroactive says, "Wait, dinosaurs can exist in a fantasy world? You betcha. They're in them. They're in that monster manual. So
They are in
got
the
it.
monster manual. So you say you feel like they need to be introduced in the right way or the right kind of campaign. And so what does that mean to you?
So it's the same reason why I kind of have issues with giants. If civilization exists, these giant creatures out there, like a herd of brontosaurus, that's going to make a lot of noise. It's going to eat a lot. They need space in order to survive. So, how is civilization either not driven them off or killed them off for all of that food to feed an army or what have you? So, I feel like you might not necessarily need like a full on like dinosaur island or a land of the lost area, but I feel like if I were to do that kind of thing with having dinosaurs, like these would be like the last. And you could have a save the planet kind of game by like these wonderful creatures are going extinct, and people are hunting them because you bring down one brontosaurus, you can feed a lot of people, you can make a lot of leather out of all of that hide, you can make whatever out of all of that bone. So, and it's not like they're as intelligent as dragons that you have to fear of like, oh, can this speak? They're a herd animal essentially, so like you don't have quite the same level. So like I feel it needs to have a world where they exist, like your dragon game, uh
Quarter worms.
Dragon Veil, whatever it was, that fits because everything is reptilian. So like you might have the pygmy dinosaurs and occasionally, you might have the larger ones, but it fits that setting. If I were to just toss something haphazardly in a game, even though I do a lot of on the cuff stuff, I sometimes feel like, is this right? Should the fit in the world, or are people going to be like, well, this is coming out of left field. Does this make sense?
I'm just gonna throw a dinosaur in from now on every third session for no reason at all.
So like, if you look at, put herbivores aside, if you look at predators, all right, we've just got upscaled. There might be one Tarrasque in the world. There might be, a number of gargantuan dragons, and they all go through these hibernation periods need to eat. But if you look at a T-Rex, it's active, it's not designed to sleep, and it is, the size of a horse and cart, long, and then twice that high. The amount of meat that that thing needs to eat in order to be around. What is it consuming?
Other
What?
dinosaurs.
Well, if it's got other dinosaurs, sure, but then what are they eating? How much of an area are they consuming? Like, I try not to go crazy when I'm looking at things in regards to, you know, the environmental structure, but I don't want to all of a sudden throw this curveball and have it not really feel like it's a part of the world, doesn't fit in the world while I was all of a sudden here, unless I want it to be, what the fuck is this doing here?
Yeah, I mean, well, we had dinosaurs in the real world, but they didn't exist alongside a lot of other creatures the same way. They didn't exist alongside people, right? So, but I feel like they would be exploited in other ways, like not just like would they be hunted, but I think they would try to farm them and treat them like herd animals, or I know you had issues with giants, but dinosaurs in conjunction with giants would probably work really well. Like it would be animals that kind of scaled to them,
Sure.
to a certain extent.
And if you were to go to that kind of world and have like this mega planet where all of these larger things exist, and you have this area of humans that are trying to eke out a life in this world that they're undersized for, great, I can get behind that, and I feel like that fits really well. But you have to have that from the core concept. You could have giants riding mega brontosaurus, and going out and hunting T-Rexes, and whatever else, just for fun. Maybe they have literal competitions where giants, you know the biggest of the giants, wrestle T-Rexes, trying to like not get bit and what have you. That could be hilarious. But if you don't have it from that kind of core concept,
It's all fun and games until you get bit by the T Rex.
so like you've got, if you have it as a core concept, great. But if like you just try and like shoehorn that into a world, I feel like it might not fit, you know?
So T Rexes are huge, and I think most of our giants are in a huge category.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least the main ones,
Yeah.
not counting like ogres and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're kind of comparable. Although I feel like they shrunk the giants in 5e.
Well, I mean, that's giants have been being shrunk for a long time. I mean, if you look at the giants in like the D&D cartoon, they were like, "Oh, look, I come up to your ankle."
Yeah. So I think it might be interesting to toy with that. Having giants keeping like T Rexes as like dogs.
Oh, I'm down for, you know, a collaboration or an expansion of that kind of concept. I think having humans not be the species in a world, I think would be a fabulous campaign setting to play in, because then like you could have an element of like the Lord of the Rings things where every once in a while it's like, no, you need to be prepared to run because this shit's going to eat you, stomp you flat, and not really care.
I'm just catching up on the chat here.
Sure. So Morbid Florist is talking about Warhammers did, dinos, having them incorporated into the Lizardman Society, the army. I actually have, though I never actually played a game of Warhammer Fantasy. I do have a Lizardman army that I had put together many years ago. Um, I haven't touched that in like 20 years, but I spent a whole bunch of money recklessly on Warhammer and I don't care because it just took too long to play. But I love the models. But lizard men are fabulous, and lizard men riding dinosaurs could be a lot of cool as well. Um, you could have like multiple lizard men riding on the back of like T-Rex, or heck, if you can even manage to make it work, the a T-Rex howdah, with lizard men, in the howdah, firing or throwing spears could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, mobile turrets for sure. Although in the Heroescape, it was the orcs that used the dinosaurs,
Indeed.
and they were a lot of fun. Although with some of the sets that came out later, they weren't as quite as effective, but they looked cool
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
actually got the a repainted Dino guy on my shelf over there.
oh, from Heroescape.
Yeah, from Heroescape.
Yeah, yeah. I tried so hard to make those armies work, but alas, but they looked cool. That was the
Well,
main
I've
thing.
I've, I've heard tale that they're re-releasing Heroescape in the near-ish future with a new master set that's supposed to like work alongside all the earlier stuff.
Uh huh.
We'll see what happens.
Oh, I have so much of that. Well, you do too. So much Heroescape stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just collecting dust.
I again, with the renovation that's being done to the house, like all that stuff had kind of gotten pulled out, and it is it is a lot more than I thought I had. I was like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I might need to honestly find a way to pare that shit down. And hey, if new stuff is coming out, maybe I can pawn it off on somebody else.
Uh, yeah, maybe. Or hear me out. Start playing again.
I didn't say get rid of it. I just said
Yeah.
down.
I
Get
think your kids would
some of
like
it.
it. Teddy would like it.
I'm certain he would,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely a thing if I can figure out exactly where I'm gonna store it all. Um, but it takes a long time to set up, and it takes you know it could take a long time to play. And I mean,
Yeah.
heck, time where we built for 6 hours making a map. So
Yeah, but you know what? I will say, like, the prep for Heroescape, I think, is a lot more enjoyable than, like, Warhammer or something.
sure.
Because, like, you're actually, like, building the maps and the terrain and,
Hmm.
making interesting things. It's not just a matter of setting it all up so you can then
Sure.
play the next day. I think there's more creativity to it anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, Triceratops mounted by Lizardfolk would be awesome. Yeah, throw a Lizard King or Lizard Queen in there for fun.
Or take any of the like typical NPCs that are in the challenge rating you're looking for, and go ahead and just throw them up there. You could have like just change the race to Lizard Man, and you're good to go.
Yeah, in the back in the DMG, there's that great section for basically they're almost like templates, but not
Mhm.
really for turning. They're really good for using for the NPCs where you can turn them into basically any race. And they also, I think they had them for skeletons and zombies as well. I used to
I
use it a lot.
I do it all the time. I feel it's incredibly useful because it's like, all right, well, this is listed as a human or an elf. And I'm like, I don't want it to be a human or an elf. I need it to be something
I
else.
need it to be a half orc, or I need it to be an ogre, or something. Yeah,
So you just go bloop, and you're good to go.
yeah. So you need to start working on your dinosaur campaign.
Okay. I will. I have, like I said, I have zero problem with making that style of game. And it would give me a reason to, really have giants as a core thing. Um, and I haven't ever really done that because I've struggled with how do giants fit, and
Yeah.
literally like, okay, you guys are going to be the mice, going into a giant's lair. No, mice is obviously well outside the spectrum. I mean, if you're 5 feet tall and they're 30 foot tall, it's like, all right, you're more the house cat or the dog. Like it's the same thing of like you are small potatoes in comparison to you know these massive creatures.
I feel like 5e giants are only like the 18 to 24 foot range in
I'm
height.
pretty sure Storm gets up to 30.
So I will say the version of dinosaurs I don't really like in a D&D game, or I'm not interested in playing, is the prehistoric campaign. Like
Okay.
I have zero interest in that. I wouldn't. I don't mind. I don't mind, and I kind of like the Land of the Lost version if you are the outsider coming in,
Mhm.
and have access to everything. But I don't think like specifically 580 would not work very well as a prehistoric campaign, just because you'd have to strip so much of it down to make it work.
And like I'm right there with you. To be able to say like, all right, you don't have access to metal, you don't have access to all of these things. It's like, all right, well, what does exist? What can I have? It seems to be a lot.
Yeah, you end up having to strip a lot away from the game, and it definitely affects certain classes way more than others.
Right.
Like your rogue type character, virtually unaffected. If you are gonna allow spellcasters, it doesn't affect them as much because they have their magic. But like
Hmm.
you're kind of like your fighters and your paladins, those are the classes that seem to really suffer.
And I wouldn't force that kind of style game. I would just be like, look, if that is an option that people want, sure, no problem. Uh, but everybody's got to be on board, and that's pretty much how it should always be when you've got a game concept.
Morbid Florist OSR games would work better for prehistory, in my opinion. Smaller numbers for a deadlier game. Yeah, that definitely works much better. Spellhawk Press, Heat Metal spell gone. No, the Lament of the Druid. But then again, you'd have access to a lot more things to wild shape into.
Yeah, there is that
Well,
aspect.
sort of. It's a double edged sword because you would see all these cool things and be like, if only their CR wasn't so high. I mean, technically, a druid can never wild shape into a T Rex.
Yep.
So it's so very sad.
You got to
Um,
21st level to make that work.
I think is a T Rex a 7 or an 8?
I want to say it's a 7 off the top of my head. The King of Feathers is an 8.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it
no, T Rex is 8.
the yeah. So I wonder if they adjusted the CR because I remember 7 for a long time.
Maybe they did.
I don't know. You got a monster manual behind you?
I do, in fact.
I thought you might. Because I remember it's always talking about having to be a 21st level Circle of the Moon druid in order to make it work. But for the rest of the dinosaurs, they range from a quarter to an 8. I mean, from a quarter to 8. So there's a lot of them that just aren't even attainable. But there's a few you can change into. But it's,
In my manual with the handy dandy pull out section, a T Rex is an 8.
yep, we're just remembering wrong then.
Sorry. Can't be right about everything all the time.
Heresy.
So 20, level 24 then to be a T Rex.
Piece of cakes. I mean, you can hit Brontosaurus and Triceratops though at 15th. So Ankylosaurus at ninth. I know that David in your game used to like to do that one.
Oh yeah, was his go-to move, and you know, not a bad get. Not a huge amount of hit points, but 15 armor class and a you know 4 die 6 damaging attack. Pretty snazzy. Get the,
Yeah.
because you're wild shaping.
So you haven't done it. You haven't really done many druids in 5e, have you?
I did not. I did like 1 or 2 one shots, and um, I did a. We had a offshoot campaign within the Dawnbringers, and I played a druid in that game. We were all essentially warforged, and we had to do like we were essentially. If you're familiar with that story, we're part of M's character, figure 2 Prometheus. Um, if you're not familiar with that story, it's a lot of back information that I'm not going to be able to give you, but we're all connected, to their character. And in real life, M had to go and ties in perfectly. They were actually going on essentially like a paleontology kind of style dig out in Canada. So they were going to be unavailable to game with us for a handful of months. And, it's like, well, Fig went away and we had to figure out where Fig was in order for them to get, put back into the game. So we all made new characters, and wherever Fig went, that's where we went. So it was really cool. And then Jake tied it all back in by things that we did in that offshoot story affected, our characters in the Dawnbringers core game once Fig rejoined us.
Very, very cool.
So didn't really do a whole lot of wild shaping, but I played more of the Circle of Stars Druid, so I was doing a lot of spell casting and love the hell out of Guiding Bolt.
Yeah, I've done a few druids, but not in any campaigns.
I know you played we have an aberrant druid in one of our rule sets. I think you played that in a short campaign arc.
Yeah, we only got a handful of sessions with that. I played a session or two with Master of the Game in one of his games, and I played a Warforged druid,
Transformer.
Circle of the Moon.
You were a transformer in that one.
Yeah, basically a transformer. Yeah, but like I insisted. I was like, I want to not look like an animal. I just want to look like a Warforged in the
Version.
version of whatever the animal is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an awesome concept. I love like all right.
Yeah, the most important part is like halfway through the fight, you're like, just got to make those sounds.
You got to make the sound effects, man.
It's got to last like 3 rounds.
Yeah, you say that too much and be like, all right, it takes you 3 rounds to transform.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to work. That's where I guess that's not true. I played Vankus for a while. I played that in Guy's game. Vankus was a druid, and he tended to wild shape into people, wild shape and tear people's faces off.
Oh, is he also a Circle of the Moon?
He was Circle of the Moon, yeah. Yeah. So that one we played for a while, but man, that feels so long.
Was
ago.
that a saver dice or?
Yeah, it was saver dice. Yeah, that was the game where Guy. It was an awesome idea, but it was also overly complicated for the first session of his stream because he handed us each we each had our characters, and we were just like figuring out who our characters were and who everyone else's characters are. And then he's like, "Well, forget all that for now. You're gonna play this dragon god character."
Wow.
And we did like a scene as dragons, and I just remember Cody from Taking 20s like trying to do all this role playing and wanted to like try and talk our way out of this conflict. I'm like, guy just handed me a dragon. I want to breathe fire on somebody right now. Like I can talk my way out of conflicts and anytime, but rarely do I get to like unleash the power of a dragon on somebody.
That does sound like an amazing experience, and I too would be hard pressed not to follow in the same footsteps. Like, I want to, I want to just nuke something.
Yeah, I want to do dragon stuff. Get to we get to do people stuff all the time.
I know, dragons are a far cry from dinosaurs, but like I can recall a time, in Heather's game where like we got to the end, the finale. We're 20th level characters at this point in time, and they bust out this ancient red dragon on us. And it's like, all right, I want to roll that 26 die 6 or whatever nonsense it was. Like, we're looking across the table to find out who's got enough d6s, and of course the answer is me. I'm like, here you go. She was so excited to roll that many dice. I was fortunate. It's like, oh, it's fire damage. I'm a 15th level rogue. Evasion.
Yeah, I laugh at your piddly fire damage.
Yeah, that was fun times. I would never inflict that character on a first time GM ever again. But
yeah. So Battle of Pelennor just picked up the Transformers RPG, and says Dinobots by itself. Can you play a Dinobot? Can you make a Dinobot? I'm kind of curious because they launched like a bunch of them, right? Power Rangers, GI Joe, Transformers, but I have not checked any of them out yet. Do you have it, Ted? Are you gonna pull it out?
I have the thing that was available at Free RPG Day at PAX Unplugged, and I thought it was here. I don't see it.
You thought wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm not as organized as I would like to be.
Yeah, I definitely would like to. I guess the Power Rangers, I really don't care about that much. GI Joe, I'm not that excited about that, but I definitely wouldn't mind checking out the Transformers rule set.
Right there with you.
I mean,
I would play GI Joe. Heck, I would even play the
Power Rangers.
But like, I never understood. I never got into Power Rangers, but it's
it was after our time.
Sure, but I mean, like to me, I would just kind of hearken the same spirit that I have of the love of Voltron.
Yeah,
Power Rangers.
It's like Voltron, but if it sucked.
I wouldn't use the word suck. I would just say inferior.
Okay, there you go.
I'll be a little.
I mean, are they connected Dinotherms or what? Or what are we doing here?
Yeah, Dinotherms need to be connected. If there's no connected, then how does this even work?
Yeah, so I know there have been several times I had threatened to run a Transformers game using Mutants and Masterminds, but most of our group didn't want to do it. I couldn't believe it. They just weren't into it.
I was on board.
You were on board. I think you were the only one though. Like, how could you not want to play a Transformer?
And I would totally, if you wanted to go that one step further and make it, we all be Dinobots. I could be there for that too.
Yeah, you seem to have some agreement. The Power Rangers.
I see that Nexus and Morbid are on our side. We're gonna look at it.
Even the lamer Voltrons were better.
Sorry, Avram. I'm not a huge Silverhawk guy, but Thundercats, hell yeah.
Silverhawks weren't bad. They're okay.
I got nothing against them. It wasn't me.
That was another one that was after my time. It's like some of that stuff I watched. My brothers would watch it, and Ryan would watch it, and he was like 8 years younger than me. So that's how I could say it was like definitely after my time. So it is that time that the chat has to become extinct because it is an hour.
All right. So, be on the lookout for us in things to come. We have our season finale, season 2 ender of Those Bastards next, or not next, but this Tuesday. We have some fun things lined up thereafter, which we'll talk about there. Do we have a live chat this week, sir?
We do. We got Nick's coming on. He's a D&D guy, and also he's kind of like he's kind of like a Viking that also does glass blowing. So
Oh, sweet.
should be an interesting chat.
Well, we'll have to see how that all goes. Anytime you start, getting into glass blowing stuff, for me, ask him about, whether he watches any of that Blown Away TV show, and make sure to have plenty of jokes about the glory hole.
I'll I'll see what I can do for you, Ted. With that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.